Hey, what's going on, my little tattletales? Listen, if you've been following the Wendy Williams case, you are just as riveted as I am, and also praying for Wendy. But baby, Wendy's lawyer has spoken, and now we know where bodies are buried, who to point fingers at, and more information is coming. Y'all, listen, I know everybody saw that big interview in the Hollywood Reporter about the last days of Wendy Williams. And honestly, this is nothing but, I think there's a reporter, Nicole, she works for the Sun, the U.S. Sun. She literally, it was basically regurgitating all her old articles. There was a little bit of news. We learned that perhaps the person that has the guardianship is that manager she can't stand, who's now the guardianship. And there's like this weird, maybe shifty person that's out there being her guardian now. But forget all that, because Wendy's lawyer in the guardianship case has broken her silence. She has been barred from having any contact with Wendy. And the judge says if she contacts her again, she is going to be disbarred. That means she's going to lose her legal license. Who is this lawyer? This is also Kevin's lawyer. Y'all, let me just tell y'all something. Forget about what you think you know about Wendy Williams. This is a case of a woman that is being used and abused by all sides against her, right? You got Kevin and his lawyer, which screwed her over big time. And because of their ego and hubris, I think this is the reason Wendy is in this situation. You got Wells Fargo, who may or may not have been doing anything funny with Wendy's money. You have Debmar Mercury, who looked at her as nothing but a cash cow that literally rode her until they broke her and then threw her away like trash. And you got all these other people. Y'all, let's get into this, because Kevin Hunter, Sharina, and this lawyer, they got a lot of accounting to do, because when we pass around blame over who screwed Wendy over and who, what, why, where, and how, they literally are right there in the top three. I'm saying, let's get into this. But before we do, listen, y'all, hit that like button, subscribe. You guys, I'm almost to 100,000. If you could subscribe and help me get there, I would appreciate it. Don't forget, I'm doing a giveaway. Also, I'm reviewing the Real Housewives of Atlanta. The reviews are up, and I go live every Sunday right after the episode, and we get into this. All right, everybody good? All right, let's go. All right, so this is directly reported. The lawyer, Wendy's old lawyer, Kevin's current lawyer, was complaining. She said, Wendy's been isolated. Wendy Williams' lawyer accuses judge of refusing to let her speak with talk show hosts and battle with Wells Fargo. The lawyer, who at one point represented Wendy Williams in her battle against Wells Fargo, accused the court of threatening to report her to the Florida bar if she communicated with the talk show host. Now get this. Last year, Wendy hired LaShawn Thomas to help her battle Wells Fargo. The entertainer accused the bank of freezing her accounts and refusing to let her touch her money. Okay, fine, right? Now, Wendy, I'm going to do this because I got something to say about this. Just listen to this paragraph and then we'll discuss, right? Wendy said she's unable to pay her bills and staff due to the bank's action. She believed her ex-financial advisor, Lori Schiller, had told the bank that she was potentially the victim of financial exploitation. Wendy denied the accusations, demanded her money publicly and privately in court. Wells Fargo refused to unfreeze the accounts. They asked the court to appoint a guardian to make a decision on behalf of Wendy. Now, as we know, the judge ended up sealing the case, which is still being fought in New York City. Wendy, pay attention, brought on LaShawn to assist the matter. Many people question why the entertainer hired a lawyer with ties to her ex-husband, Kevin Hunter. Now, we got to talk about this because, honestly, first of all, the lawyer, LaShawn, this isn't anything about her as an entertainment lawyer, but she is a business lawyer, entertainment lawyer. She has no experience at all dealing with guardianships. None at all. What does that mean? A lawyer isn't just a lawyer. You cannot get a lawyer that's used to dealing with car crash victims and help them with your custody. Now, while everybody knows the basics of the law, lawyers specialize. It's not enough about just knowing the law. You need to know about how the law is applied in the court system. Most importantly, in the jurisdiction that you are actually being tried in. Again, guardianship law and how it's applied is different in Ohio than it is in New York. So you need a lawyer that knows all those ins and outs, right? Kevin's lawyer had no experience at all in guardianship. And I'm just going to say it right now. I actually blame her and Kevin for this guardianship evening happening because she didn't know what was happening. She was outclassed. She didn't know what's going on in Wells Fargo. If they had gotten a lawyer that knew about fighting guardianships and knew about fighting this type of thing, Wendy probably wouldn't be under guardianship. At the very least, maybe her son would be in control. Now let's talk about why this lawyer's mad. The judge is pointing at them for a potential conflict of interest. How did they not see this coming? How did this not see this coming? Let's all tie it back to Kevin Hunter. Now, this is my speculation. I want you guys to know, but I'm making dots that I think align. Let me know if you think it's a reach, respectfully, in the comments. This is Kevin. Kevin for years has been accused of being emotionally abusive, being physically abusive. Kevin is the one reason why Wendy has spiraled over and over. Kevin and his love is Wendy's trigger. I don't understand why so many people are like, oh, she needs her man around her. Her man is the one doing her in. So the person that lied to Wendy, took advantage of Wendy, caused Wendy to spiral many, many times. And the person that went online to disparage Wendy, because you still got an attitude at her, that she was the rainmaker while you were just the plus one, right? Your lawyer steps in. How did this lawyer not think that this was going to be a conflict of interest? Why? Because what was Lori Sheeler accusing things of happening? People taking advantage of Wendy Williams. And who were the people that around her that had access to her son? Wendy's son, yes. But who had influence over her son? Who did her son look to for guidance? Who was advising her son over what to do with the money, how to do with the money, where to do with the money? I'll tell you who. Who's at the brown out? Kevin G.D. Hunter. And Sharina, the vegan cook. I'm sorry, I just had to say that. But honestly, even so much that when her son was confused and lost about what's going on, they saying all this stuff going, he went to his dad for help. And his dad got his lawyer involved. Because again, I said it once, I said it twice. Kevin don't give a damn about Wendy. He look at her as a paycheck just like everyone else. Kevin can sit there and talk that mess type saying, oh, you know what? Debmar Mercury and the production company, they didn't care if Wendy lived or died. They let her do all this stuff. But Kevin, you was right there helping her. You was right there throwing cold water on her face, telling her you're going live in 10 seconds. You was right there helping the production company work her and use her for everything she was worth until she broke. And the only reason you even got involved with this is because your alimony checks got cut off. You were fine to see Wendy lose everything she worked as long as you and Sharina could keep cooking vegan macaroni and cheese. Now let's get back into what this lawyer says. So basically, this lawyer's ego and hubris and whatever her and Kevin were trying to do blew up in their face. Wendy's the one that suffered, right? Wendy's the one that suffered, and not everybody's sitting there looking shocked and confused, right? Okay, now let's get this, right? Now get this. The judge rightly said, this is a conflict of interest. You are prohibited from working on the case due to the conflict of interest. That line actually solidified my thoughts that they thought Kevin was the one that was trying to go into her bank accounts, exercise undue influence, and literally get everything he could. Don't forget, he went that live. He was getting closer to Wendy. He is Wendy's trigger. The fact that Kevin's lawyer was prohibited from even talking to Wendy as a conflict of interest makes me think that he was identified as the one Lori Sheeler maybe thought was exercising undue influences over Wendy, either through her son or directly. But it's not over. Now, here's the thing, right? A broken clock, even though they're wrong, because everybody's wrong in the situation, but LaShawn makes some good points, right? She said that there's never a conflict of interest. The judge in Wells Fargo did not want me on the case because I couldn't be bought. I would never stand by and watch my client be taken advantage of. So they did everything to get me out of the picture, including threatening to report me to the Florida bar if I communicated with my client. Again, and this is what I mean about the ego. And this is what I mean about the hubris. What, if this was such a high stake thing and you were really trying to protect your client and this wasn't about your ego, why didn't you refer this to another lawyer? Why didn't you give this to a lawyer that actually knew what they were doing in the guardianship? Why didn't you go to refer this to like the top lawyer to fight this in the New York City area? There are so many ways you could have protected Wendy, but at the end of the day, it was only about your hubris. And at the end of the day, and I will say, it did seem like you were working in the best interest of Kevin, and you weren't really concerned with how Wendy was going to actually turn out. Because if you did, you would have referred to another lawyer and brought another lawyer on board. She said their goal was to get Wendy back to New York to control her. Wendy was doing well in Florida with her son. Now, here's the thing. Again, they're all messed up, but their lawyer is actually right about this. When Wendy was in Florida, she wasn't wandering around. She wasn't looking dizzy. She wasn't walking to Louis Vuitton, sleeping for 4 hours, walking around New York City lobby with bare shoes on. And let me tell y'all something, because some of y'all were in my comments about, oh my God, she lives in a high-end luxury building. Baby, I did too. What is your point? Anybody in New York City right now in the age of polio and monkeypox going around is not standing in the lobby barefoot unless it's an emergency. And no, she didn't get locked out of her apartment. She was just wandering around barefoot. The filth that's on those New York City streets, walking literally around, even if it's in the lobby, I don't care how clean that looks at. Real New Yorkers that live in luxury buildings, let me know you don't be walking around barefoot if you don't have it. There is a monkeypox pandemic. Y'all are tripping. Y'all are like literally tripping. Whether you live in the projects or whether you live in the towers in the kingdom of heaven. Anyway, why am I getting off subject? Let me go in here, right? She said Wendy was doing well in Florida for her son. She was on the mend, seeing her doctors every day, exercising and having coherent conversations. The person you see today is vastly different than what you saw in the videos from Florida. This is true, LaShawn. I'll give you that. She said Wendy's been isolated. She's done everything in her power to assist. She's filed a complaint against Wells Fargo and the judge for her improper actions. She said, unfortunately, I cannot continue to pursue these actions as I have been impeded by my attempts to communicate with Wendy by the court. LaShawn, again, your ego screwed Wendy over. You should have gotten another lawyer and referred her, especially if it's looking more and more that they thought Kevin was the one exercising undue influence over Wendy and her money. As soon as you knew that Kevin or her son was being considered and side-eyed, you should have got another lawyer, referred her, and had them try the case. Okay, now get this. She said, they don't want us to see a healthy Wendy, hence the court threats to sanction me if I spoke to the media or to Wendy. She said in regard to Kevin, she stood up for a client. She stood up for a client, was instrumental to the success of Wendy's show, and had her best interest in heart despite his mistakes. First of all, LaShawn, you just lost me right there. I don't believe that for a second. Kevin don't got nothing. He got so much animosity and hate over Wendy. It don't make no sense. Now, I will say one other thing, but LaShawn is right. I do believe they're keeping Wendy isolated. I do believe they're letting her walk around looking like, Mr. Burns when he had that nuclear accident from The Simpsons, and he was walking around glowing in his nightgown. They thought it was an alien running around Springfield. Shout out to The Simpsons. I do believe that's what's going on, and they're doing it on purpose. Don't forget that guardianship, it was temporary until the end of July. They let her walk around with that shady manager that keeps letting her, the jeweler that is now her manager, keeps letting her do interviews where she's looking like really wacky, really zany, really all around kooky, right? A little bit spooky. I think they're doing that on purpose because what happened due to all these things, Wendy's guardianship was extended. They literally, I believe the manager is the guardianship. The old manager, we'll talk about that. The new manager seems to be a two-bit con artist. He is not equipped to deal with it, and they are letting her out there looking stupid and keep on declining because the more she declines, the more they can get control of her money. Y'all, this story is deep. I'm doing some investigation. I'm trying to put some feelers out, actually talking to people that might be close enough to the situation. That'd be great. But listen, anyway, my little tattletales, let me know what you think in the comments, and I will talk to you later. Bye.